We're good to go.
Good evening. How you doing?
Doing great. Yourself?
Good. Good. We're here with Mr. and Miss Phanzu to talk about their experience with Saks Outlet and with the Chesterfield Police. You feeling okay today?
Yes, sir.
I hate to have to interview you and make you relive this whole ordeal, but I think it's important that we have a discussion about it and the events that occurred back on May the 26th, 2018. I want to start with you, Ms. Phanzu, to talk about May the 26th. You remember May 26th?
How could I forget? Yes, I do remember. We were traveling the next day, May 27th, so I do remember specifically, that day we were packing, my family and I.
Did you work that day?
I'm sorry?
Did you work on the 26th?
I did not. It was a Saturday. It was already a very sad day because we had buried someone very close to us that morning.
Oh, okay.
And then, after the funeral, we were packing, getting ready to our trip, family vacation to Europe. And that's when the police came to our door.
So the whole family was at home?
Yes.
And you have how many children?
I have 3 children, 22 daughter, 22 years old, 15-year-old, and a boy.
And you're expecting also?
I'm sorry?
And you're expecting also?
Yes, I am.
Mm-hmm.
I am.
On the way.
Okay.
Yes.
And so how far were you in the pregnancy at this point?
2 months.
2 months.
Yes.
Okay, so everybody's at home packing, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and what happened next?
My daughter called, Papa, there is police at the door. And we were not expecting anyone, so we just thought, okay, maybe they're looking for someone in the neighborhood, just want information. Trey goes out and answers the door, and I'm upstairs helping my daughter packing, and I hear him saying, it's me, so I assume they ask for Mr. Phanzu, and right away he closed the door behind him. And so I followed, and as soon as I opened the door, I see them turning him around and putting handcuffs on him.
So what's the first vision you see when you open the door?
As I open the door, I see 2 police, one behind him, another one right in front of him, 3 on the back, holding guns, big guns, close to their chest. So when I say 3, 1 far back and then 2 kind of close to our front porch.
What was your first thought when you saw that?
My heart dropped. I'm shaking and I'm automatically crying and asking, what's happening? What's going on? In my head, I'm thinking, what are they accusing him of? Of course, my thought went as far as murder, rape, anything you could imagine. The worst thought just came through my mind.
Was that because there was so many police there?
Yes, it looked like they came to pick up a criminal, as if they were prepared for resistance or something like that. Mm-hmm. Drug dealer, I don't know, it just seemed over the top to me. Mm-hmm. And could it be because I've never experienced anything like that? Could, but I just thought about the worst.
Mm-hmm. And what did you do next?
They were talking directly to Trey, and I tried to intervene as much as I could just to kind of get clarity of what was going on. What's going on? What did he do? And they said to him that you have been identified by Saks Avenue as a person who stole clothing, and they mentioned it was True Religion brand and thousands worth of items that were stolen. And then they proceed to say, we got you on camera. And Trey was very calm, but said to the police officer, I think you got the wrong guy. Mm-hmm. It's not me. And the police officer doing the interrogation was very aggressive. He was in Trey's face, mm-hmm. Pretty much saying, listen, I know you did it. Saks is not pressing charges. They just want you to return what you've stole. And if you do that, you give us what you took, we'll let you go. But if you don't, we'll take you in. And he keeps on repeating himself, I did not do it. You got the wrong guy. And so the police say, now you're just trying to make me look stupid or something like that. I'm very good at what I do. I pick up guys like you. And Trey said, I have no need to steal. I make a good living, and so does my wife. And that's when the police said, oh, I'm surprised you even live in a house like this. I mean, when all this is going on, I'm crying, but I'm very conscious of the conversation as well. So it hit me that, what was that supposed to mean? You know, I'm surprised you live in a house like this. What did they expect it?
Right.
Because they knew they were coming to pick up a black guy, so therefore they didn't expect him to be one that, you know, was doing well, or I don't know. It was just out of place. But anyway,
where were the children at this time?
They all were looking through the window. I closed the door behind me again because I did not want them to see Trey handcuffed. But they were watching through the window, and they heard everything.
How did they react?
I always say it like this, and out of respect to anyone who lost a family member, it felt as if it was there was a death in the family. Mm-hmm. They were crying, and I was crying. We all thought, and for me, and every time I go through this, I get the same feeling that as if we were not going to see him again. Mm-hmm. And this is all based on stories you see on television or people share with you, you know, taking him in. But I'm thinking, if they continue to antagonize him the way they were doing, what if he at some point react or say something or lose his cool? Are they going to shoot him and then say they were afraid for their life because he's a big black man? Mm-hmm. You know, all this went through my mind. Of course, my daughters are losing their mind. My son is 12. He's mm-hmm. crying, screaming, "Mommy, what's happening? Mm-hmm. What did he do? Mm-hmm. Why are they taking him?" And I have no explanation because I'm thinking, this cannot be. I mean, shoplifting and having 5 officers at your door. And it wasn't as if they came. I understand them even saying we're just doing our job because somebody identified you and we have to come interrogate you. But it wasn't like if they came and say, "Mr. Phanzu, this is the situation. We came to take you in for to question you." They came and pretty much said, "We know you did it." Mm-hmm. They were accusing him. There was no, you know, him being given a chance to prove his innocence or anything like that. He was already guilty, the way the police officer was saying it, as if he had something on him.
What were you thinking, Mr. Phanzu, when you opened the door and saw 3 armed people along with 2 additional officers?
My first thought was just like she's saying, I think they're probably looking for something, if something happened in the neighborhood, they need some information. So I was not thinking that they were going to ask for me, you know, and so I'm just like, wow, this has got to be a mistake, but let me find out what's going on here.
Is that why you closed the door behind you?
Oh yeah, and again, it's just whenever you see the police, I'm like, well, I'm just going to close the door and then find out what's going on. It's when they ask for me, I'm like, oops, what's going on here?
So what was your first thought when they asked for you, when they said, "We know it's you"?
Well, when they told me what they were doing, what was going on, so my first thought, like, wow, this could not be real. This could not be me. It's got to be some kind of mistake, you know. So at this point, I was still pretty normal, you know, like. But in my mind, I'm like, again, what's going on here? Am I being watched or someone? Is this being pranked or something? But yeah, and then the fear at the same time. So I had so many mixed feelings at that point because I didn't know what to think about the whole situation.
And you had to have a lot of fear in your heart at that point. Them with the 3 guns and saying that they know it's you. What about when they said, "We know you have the stuff, just go get it and we'll let you go"?
At that point, I could feel my heart beating, you know, heavily, and I'm like, wow. And
you offered to show the receipts.
And I even offered to show the receipt. I offered to show the bank statement.
Had you even purchased any True Religion jeans?
No, never wore any True Religion jeans or any True Religion products. So,
but you had shopped at Saks Fifth before.
Yes, you know, this was not my first trip there, so I'd been there a few times over the last 5 years. How many years they've been open? Yeah, so I had so many feelings going in my head. I was scared, I was sad, I was everything, you name it.
Did they tell you how they got the information that you were the suspect in question?
At that point, no, they didn't mention this. All they said that was, you know, Sachs reported that was the one person stealing there, and within the span of a week. You know, that's the only information that they've provided me.
So they told you that Sachs had reported to them
exactly
that you were the person who had been stealing clothing out of there in the time period of a week.
Exactly, through the security camera. Yep, they had me on camera within the span of a week, just going there and buying items and shoplifting at the same time.
And so did they say, why don't you take a? How did they get you in the car? Did they ask you to come with them, or did they immediately handcuff you?
They handcuffed me, but also they told me, if you have the items here, you can return them now and you'll be free to go. But I kept on telling them, I don't have anything. I don't have anything. I have the items that I purchased, but I don't have it. I did not steal anything. Well, then we're gonna have to take me in.
At any point, did it seem like the officers were trying to provoke you?
During the whole time, you know, I felt like I was being pushed, I was being provoked, and it seemed like they wanted me to react at that point. And the fact that I kept it cool, and they kept on going over and over again. We know you did this. We know you did this. This is what we do for a living. Don't try to make us look stupid. This is our job. We catch people like you shoplifting. And I kept saying, you got the wrong guy. You got the wrong guy. And then just feeling very humiliated and sad at the same time. I'm just slowly telling them, you got the wrong guy. But they kept on looking at me and on my face like, we know you did it.
So you felt like they were trying to push you into making some kind of reaction towards them?
Oh, it was totally, yeah.
What kind of reaction did it seem like they were trying to push you to make?
I don't know. It felt to me, first of all, by watching all those police officers, like they were expecting resistance from me, from an arrest. You know, that's the first thought, you know, that I'm like, oh, well, why there's five officers at my door, you know, and with big guns, as my wife described it, it seemed like they were going to, you know, feel some kind of, they had to fight to something. So but fortunately, I kept calm, I kept myself really cool and trying to keep it together and letting them know that they had the wrong guy.
And Ms. Phanzu, you were observing all of this. I guess you were afraid that he was going to react in some kind of way.
I was very afraid that he was going to react some kind of way, and this was going to go south very quickly. And I was also afraid that he was never going to be able to prove his innocence, and he might do jail for something he had not done. And me, I know this man. He's not perfect. I would not shoplift. I mean, it makes no sense. Here we can afford a trip to Europe, but can buy a pair of jeans. And we tried to explain to the police officer, we are traveling tomorrow. We can show you our tickets. And all the purchases we're making, my daughter are shopping. I am shopping, not at some place, and Trey is shopping as well, because we're buying things for us and presents for family members that live in Europe.
Right.
This will justify why he was attacked so many times. So this is, I'm saying all this in a sense.
Not that you have to justify how many times you were attacked.
Exactly. And later, the lawyer told me, you did not have to say this, but in my panic, and I was so scared, I would have done anything just to prove that he had not done it. And offer to them, you can come in, we can open our suitcases, you can flip things upside down. I know you have no warrant, but I'm very comfortable you doing that. You will find no true religion items in our home. They were very dismissive of me, as everything I was saying, as if I wasn't there. And as you mentioned, I was 2 months pregnant. Prior to this pregnancy, we had lost a pregnancy. So all this is going in my mind. I'm not trying to make this sound like an exaggeration, but I'm worried about not seeing him and about my baby.
I don't even want you to get too much more upset now. We're going to stop.
It's almost impossible not to every time I relive this.
I don't want you to have to. Mr. Phanzu, so they handcuff you in front of the entire family. And then they escort you to the police station. And are the neighbors outside looking at this?
I couldn't tell, but
it's Saturday.
Saturday.
What time of day on Saturday?
Around 4 o'clock.
Okay.
You know, people mowing the lawn, people doing yard work. It's a beautiful day out.
And I can tell this is not the typical neighborhood where you see 3 police cars and 5 policemen jump out on the
You barely see 1 police car in our neighborhood, unless someone's just patrolling, but you barely see that.
It'd be hard for me to believe that went unnoticed.
Correct.
So I can tell that, you know, the neighbors were probably watching.
So you're riding in the back seat. You're on your way to the Chesterfeild Police Station. Are they having any conversation with you on the way to the station?
No conversation. They were talking to each other. The only conversation I had with them is when we left the house. Once I was handcuffed, you know, I started crying, and after seeing my children looking at the window, that really ticked it off. I saw her crying, and you know, and all 3 kids were just crying. It looked like something from a horror movie. So I started crying at the point, and you know, I had to let them know that I wasn't crying because I felt I got caught. I was letting them know I was crying because my children were crying. You know, that.
And that's not the vision you wanted them to have.
Never. You know, because like my wife described it again earlier, watching the kids crying that way, it's like they lost a family member, and me watching her crying, just going through those, you know, those emotions at the point and at that time, and just thinking about our future baby, how she's gonna react to that. All that made me so sad. And I would describe it as the saddest day of my life.
I mean, it was supposed to be a very happy day. We were looking forward to this vacation. We had gone out of our way to just, you know, make it a good day, despite the funeral we had early that morning. So we had music playing, parking, looking forward to this.
Right.
And that happened when they took him away. I mean, my son had cried so much that he ended up sleeping on the floor in my bedroom. My daughter and I are on the phone looking for lawyers online. We have a family lawyer, but we couldn't reach him. This was a long weekend. The following Monday was a holiday. And I'm trying my best not to cry, not to lose it, because I needed to be strong for my children. But we're all just crying and shaking. I didn't even know who you call. As I mentioned to you earlier before we start shooting, we don't have family members here. It's just us and friends. And I went through all this, and who do I call? And I didn't want to call our friends right away. Not that I don't trust them, but in a situation like this, especially because it was the first time, I'm thinking, are they going to be judgmental, thinking,
how do you explain it?
Exactly, how do I explain it? How are they going to, what we're going to proceed? So that was not an option, not right away. And I'm just going around thinking, what are you supposed to do when something like this happened? And I didn't even know when they had taken him. I asked the police officer as they were leaving, where are you taking him? And he said, you wait until you get that call. That's when you're going to know.
Not even the decency to tell you where
No.
Now, Mr. Phanzu, when you get to the station, do they fingerprint you?
Yes. They put me in a cell, and then they called me out of the cell, did the fingerprints and mug shots, and then put me back in the cell for a few more minutes.
And then at some point,